Ryan Carroll. I'm an admissions counselor at Johns Hopkins University. I'm here to talk about teacher letters of recommendation, how they're used in our admissions process, and some common questions that I see regarding teacher letters of recommendation. One of the first questions I see from students a lot is, why are teacher letters of recommendation important? And teacher letters of recommendation give the admissions committee a sense of who you are, not just academically, but also as a person. These letters are an opportunity for teachers to share firsthand evidence of what you're like in an academic setting, what drives you, and what you're passionate about. Among other things, the admissions committee is looking to understand how you'll engage in an academic environment while at college, and how you'll interact with peers and faculty. We get a sense of how you performed academically from your transcripts and your test scores if you've submitted them, but those are only pieces of a much larger picture. Test scores and grades don't shed light on how you pursue knowledge, how you work with others, how you analyze information, or any number of other relevant traits that will help us see how you'll thrive in a collegiate academic setting. Teacher letters of recommendation allow us as an admissions committee to see those traits with evidence in action. Another question that I often see is, which teachers should I ask to write me a letter of recommendation? Different colleges have different requirements for letters of recommendation, so it's important to check their websites and see what criteria they have. At Hopkins, we require 2 letters of recommendation from academic teachers. We understand that teachers often have a lot of letters to write and that some teachers might know you better than others. First and foremost, it's a good idea to pick teachers that like you and can speak positively to who you are. Teachers that have had positive experiences with you as a student will likely be able to provide positive examples of what you're like in an academic setting. Picking teachers that you've had more recently can also be helpful. They can speak to your current academic character more so than teachers that you took classes with years ago. Seeing how you navigate an academic setting in a more recent context allows us to better gauge how you'll navigate a collegiate academic environment. At Hopkins, the subjects of your teachers don't need to be aligned with the majors you indicate you'd be interested in. For example, if you indicate your first choice major is biophysics, but you feel like a teacher from an English class can best speak to your academic and personal qualities, that's okay. We want to see what you're like in an academic setting, and you should think of which classes best exemplified you as a student and which teachers can share those examples. Picking a teacher that is aligned with an area you may want to study can help to show your passion for learning, intellectual curiosity, and describe you in an academic area in which you may be excelling. Since classes aligned with your interests in college may be the ones you are most excited about and engaged with, those teachers may have pieces of information that might highlight your academic character well. Requiring 2 letters of recommendation gives you some freedom to think critically about which teachers can speak best of you as a student in general and in specific academic areas. A third question that I often see is, what information should I give the teachers that I ask to write me a letter of recommendation? When you ask teachers to write you a letter of rec, sometimes they'll ask you to fill out a sheet of information answering some questions about your experience in their class or classes. But whether they do or don't, it may be helpful to give the teacher some information about what you found impactful in the class, what topics resonated with you, and what papers, books, or projects you found enriching. Giving teachers information that helps them describe those things will allow them to write strong letters. A final question that I often see is, when should I ask teachers to write me a letter of recommendation? Once again here, every school and every teacher will have different policies, so it's important to reach out to the teachers you may want to write a letter and ask them as soon as possible. In general, it's a good idea to ask teachers and start thinking about what teachers you'd like to write you a letter of rec at the end of your junior year. Giving a teacher the summer to write you a letter of rec can be truly helpful, especially if they have a lot of letters to write on top of all the other aspects of their job. In some cases, this might not be possible, especially if the teacher you want to write a letter is a senior year teacher. Once again, the sooner that you reach out to your senior year teacher in your senior year, the better. The goal is to give your teacher as much time as possible. While each school and teacher will have different policies, reaching out to teachers to understand what they'd like is courteous and is best practice. A teacher that has time and preparation to write a letter is ultimately in a position in which they can write a strong letter. So those are just some pretty common questions I see around the teacher letters of rec in our application process. But if you have more questions for our office about what we look for in teacher letters or why they're important to us, feel free to reach out to our office. But I'd also encourage you to reach out to the teachers in your school to find out what their preferences are so they can be in a position to best help you when it comes to your application.